last week, in light of the environmental disaster in the Gulf of Mexico, I asked if this government would respect the 1972 moratorium banning oil tanker traffic from BC's Pacific North Coast, and I got no answer. We know a major crude oil spill off BC's coastline would be catastrophic. Yesterday, I returned from New Orleans, where I saw firsthand the devastation that region is facing. So I ask again, will the government finally promise to respect the Pacific Coast oil tanker ban, yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Speaker, this government has been very clear from the beginning. We expect that Canada's regulators to enforce this country's strong environmental standards, including our robust offshore drilling safety regime. Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. There will be no drilling until we are convinced that the safety of the workers and the environment is protected, Mr. Speaker. Period.
The Honourable Member for Humber. The Honourable Member for Vancouver Quadra.
Mr. Speaker, hearings in the U.S. are shedding new light on the environmental disaster in the Gulf of Mexico. We've learned that when the offshore drilling industry alone is left to regulate such high-risk activity, it's fraught with problems. Now, in Canada, the Conservatives are blindly trusting industry without any independent verification of their emergency plans. Since the Conservatives are acting as a rubber stamp for the oil companies, are they prepared to take responsibility if a similar catastrophe happens in Canada?
Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Speaker, this is not true. You know, the health and safety of Canadians remains the Government of Canada's top priority. This is it, Mr. Speaker. l'Office national de l'énergie.
The National Energy Board has announced that it would institute a process for ocean drilling. It will hold open and transparent hearings. Once again, the opposition is discrediting these credible national agencies.
Mr. Speaker, this minister and also the minister's answers yesterday on the oil tanker moratorium just smack of the Conservative culture of deceit. Our Pacific North Coast has narrow, rocky, storm-lashed inland channels with fragile ecosystems, and the tanker exclusion zone the minister talked about yesterday does nothing to protect these inland waters at all. Clearly, the Conservatives are planning on opening them up to crude oil supertankers. When will they tell the truth about their decision to put BC's coastline at risk?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Indeed, there is a moratorium off the shore of British Columbia. But with regard to this question, Mr. Speaker, it's out of the question for the government to lift that moratorium. This is very strictly inspected and monitored. It's out of the question that this moratorium be lifted. Stop politicizing this just to scare people. The Honourable Member for Laurier-Saint